So, you've hit the 10-year mark in your career. Let me tell you, when you walk into an interview now, the game has completely changed. We're not talking about proving your basic skills anymore. They already know you can do the job. Now, it's all about proving your leadership, your career stability, and honestly, your ability to bring immediate day one ROI to the company. In this explainer, we're going to break down exactly what the interviewer is looking for at this stage in your career, and I'm going to give you the exact ready-to-speak answers for the toughest questions they'll throw at you. Let's dive in. Here's our masterclass roadmap for this explainer. 1. Framing your tenure journey. 2. Proving your leadership skills. 3. Operations and pressure management. 4. Behavioral and company specifics. And finally, 5. Closing strong. This 5-part flow is designed to totally take the anxiety out of your prep. All right, let's jump right into part 1, framing your tenure journey. When you've got a whole decade of history, the biggest challenge is figuring out how to summarize your growth without rambling for 10 minutes, right? And that challenge almost always starts with the classic opener. Tell me about yourself. Now, here is the HR secret you need to know. Interviewers are absolutely not looking for your life story. At the tenure mark, they are specifically checking for 2 things: career stability and upward momentum. They're trying to figure out if you've actually grown or if you've just been repeating your first year of experience 10 times over. So how do you show that upward momentum? You use this exact ready-to-speak format. You say, I have around 10 years of experience. I started my career in execution and customer handling. Over the years, I moved into middle roles, handling teams, targets, and process improvement. Now I'm looking for a larger platform where I can use my experience for a bigger impact. See what we did there? It's a clean, logical narrative arc. It shows you've mastered the basics, learned to lead, and now you're hungry to drive real change. That narrative then sets you up perfectly to talk about your biggest achievements. And when you do, you have to use hard numbers. Take the number 35, for example. Don't just vaguely say you improved processes. You say, I reduced customer complaints by 35% in 6 months by creating a new follow-up SOP. You can even add that it saved the company 8 hours a week and boosted your CSAT score from 4.1 to 4.7. Tangible metrics like that, they prove your value instantly. Moving right along to section 2, proving your leadership skills. Because at the 10-year mark, team handling is without a doubt the most heavily scrutinized competency. They're going to want to know exactly how you lead, which means you are inevitably going to face this question: how do you handle a non-performing team member? This is a massive test. HR wants to see how a top candidate balances genuine human empathy with strict, unyielding performance management. The perfect answer here is a really decisive 3-step framework. First, you tell them you sit down one-to-one to figure out, is this a skill issue or a will issue? Second, if it's a skill issue, you provide training and buddy support. Third, if it's a will issue, you give a clear warning with a 30-day performance improvement plan, a PIP, with weekly targets. You can add that 90% of cases actually improve with a 30-day PIP, but if they don't, you take the tough decision for the health of the team. What about when the team isn't getting along? When they ask about handling conflict, enter the STAR method. It stands for situation, task, action, and result. Let's say 2 senior members are arguing over shift timings. Your situation and task are resolving the dispute without affecting work. Your action? You listened to both separately, then together, and created a fair rotation policy. And the result? The conflict was resolved and the issue never popped up again. It keeps your answer factual, tight, and incredibly persuasive. Let's transition into section 3, operations and pressure management. Look, a seasoned professional is not fazed by chaos. They expect you to systematically handle daily operations, tight deadlines, and complex shifting processes without breaking a sweat. So when they ask how you handle pressure and deadlines, you rely on the 80-20 rule. You ruthlessly prioritize what is urgent and important. That gets 80% of your focus. You tell them, in 10 years, I've learned pressure is just part of the job. You manage it by prioritizing and always having a backup plan. Give them an example, like how during a chaotic month-end closing, you actively pre-plan 2 days in advance to keep things smooth. Then they'll ask you for your 90-day plan. It's a classic. Here is the exact timeline you confidently pitch back. First 30 days, observe and deeply understand the process, the team, and the company culture. Next 30 days, identify gaps and build relationships with stakeholders. And the last 30 days, implement 2 to 3 quick wins and provide a roadmap for the next 6 months. It proves you're strategic, patient, and focused on sustainable success. And what happens when things go wrong externally, like with a difficult client? You introduce them to the LEARN framework. Listen, empathize, apologize, resolve, and note down. You explain that your ultimate goal isn't just to quiet the situation down, it's to actively convert an angry customer into a fiercely loyal one. Tell them you've retained key clients over your decade-long career by doing exactly this. Shifting now into our fourth section, behavioral and company specifics. This is the tricky territory where HR tests your self-awareness and, ultimately, how well you'll fit into their specific ecosystem. Which brings us to a knockout answer for one of the most dreaded questions. Why should we hire you over someone else with a lower salary expectation? It's all about the contrast. You tell them straight up, a cheaper, less experienced hire will take 1 to 2 years just to learn crisis management and how to retain clients. But you bring day one return on investment. Let them know they aren't just hiring an employee, they are hiring 10 years of mistakes that you've already learned from and will never repeat on their dime. Here's another common behavioral trap. Can you work under a younger manager? Your response needs to be punchy and confident. You say, knowledge and respect matter more than age. It's brilliant. It proves your maturity, it tells them your ego is firmly in check, and it shows your primary focus is entirely on learning and driving results. All right, we've made it to the fifth and final section, closing strong and final tips. Getting through the hard questions is great, but how you take control at the very end of the interview, that is what leaves the longest lasting impression. When they ask, do you have any questions for us? Never, ever say, no, I'm good. You must ask critical, forward-looking questions. Ask, what does success look like in the first 6 months? Or what is the biggest challenge your team is currently facing? Asking these flips the entire dynamic of the room. It shows you're already visualizing yourself in the role, ready to solve their problems like a true executive partner. So, to summarize some ultimate pro tips for a senior profile. First, always quantify your impact. Talk in numbers, revenue, and percentages. Second, share the credit. Say, my team and I did this, rather than I did everything. It shows real leadership. And third, tightly pace your delivery. Keep your answers between 45 and 90 seconds. It demonstrates crisp communication and serious executive presence. I want to leave you with a question to consider before your next big meeting. Are you ready to turn your decade of experience into day one ROI? Because remember, when you walk into that room, you aren't just a candidate asking for a job anymore. You are an absolute expert offering 10 years of highly valuable, battle-tested solutions. Own that immense value, structure your answers, and go ace that interview.